I don't think I have spoken to an author yet who doesn't pine in some way, shape, or form after getting either themselves or their book into a bookstore or bookstores, as many as possible. We are going to talk today to an author who has had book signing events in several. We're going to talk to her about how she did it, what it was like, tips for other authors. So join us as we talk with Andrea Wehlann about getting into bookstores.
Welcome to the Ingenium Books podcast for the author, publisher, changemaker.
Being an author is something that you've got to take seriously.
You're an indie author, you take the risk, you reap the rewards, you are in charge of the decisions, you're the head of that business.
What happens if you start writing your book before you identify your why? What's the problem with that?
The Ingenium Books podcast. Your podcast hosts are Bonnie and John Wagner Stafford of Ingenium Books.
Hey, that's us.
Andrea, thank you so much for joining us today. Maybe we can get you to start by telling us what books you have published.
I have published No Matter How Dark the Stain, Poems and Inspiration for the Woman in Pain, a series of Canadian poetry. And I have Deeper Days, 365 Yoga Inspirations for Finding Inner Calm Amidst Chaos.
Awesome. And you have a new book coming out in the next few weeks as we record this. Probably by the time we publish this podcast episode, your book will be out. What's the third one?
The third one is a journal called Stillness in the Storm, a conscious daily journal of yoga and spiritual healing.
Excellent. So let's talk about bookstores. I alluded to this just amazing accomplishment that you have, which is you have actually gotten yourself into a number of bookstores over the last, I don't know how long, number of years, but let's get you to start by how many bookstores have you been in?
At least 10. At least 10.
At least 10.
I have a list.
We need to know how you did this. So take us back to the beginning. What was it like for you, and why did you want to get into bookstores?
I had maybe a preconceived notion that when you had a book published, it magically appeared in bookstores.
Right.
However, me being me, I published mine during the shutdown, pandemic, COVID. So there was no going to bookstores. There was nothing happening outside of your home. So, yes, I felt when people were allowed out that if I wanted my book in a bookstore, I had to go to the bookstore. And that was the start.
Which is brilliant. And that is something we often talk with our authors about when they ask us questions. How do I get my book into the bookstores? Lots of authors have that same preconceived notion. Andrea, you are not alone. If I publish my book, regardless of who with, it is magically going to appear. That's not really how it works. We're not going to talk about how it works so much to get your book into the bookstore, except that a key part of it really is to make a personal plea and a connection to the bookstore. So what was the first thing you did? Tell us how, and what was the first bookstore you were in?
Oh, good question.
And if you don't remember exactly which one, that's okay. But
I don't think I remember, but what popped into my head when you asked me the question was I picked my favorite cities. Where were my favorite cities that I loved, where I wrote the most in? I always have a book. I always have a pen and paper. So I picked my favorite city. And then I picked all the bookstores in the city. And then I went and I picked which ones had a good vibe, which ones were cute, which ones I felt like were the most beautiful. And then when I was there, I would leave, some promo cards on the windowsill if there was a spot. I would compliment the staff who was usually reading a book behind the counter. And ask for the information of who runs this bookstore. That was the start.
That is really something, because what you've just described is a whole series of steps before you even make your pitch.
Mm-hmm.
Why did you feel like it was important for you to do that research about what the stores were and what they felt like? How did you come to that decision that that's what you needed to do?
This might be where my yogi self comes in, or my dreamer self, or my visionary. But I have to feel everything. And then I have this really strong sense of knowing yes or no. And that's what I did. I just had to go there and I had to feel it out. To feel like if it's destiny or not. If this is where I'm supposed to be, or should it be at the other one? I'm just like that.
Well, that's really it's fascinating. And because what you also were doing, whether you realized it or not, so allowing your intuition to tell you is one thing, but you were also doing research about what that bookstore was like. As you spoke to the people that worked there to find out who made the decisions, you get to determine what their interactions are like. You get to determine what their attitudes and opinions are about authors who approach them for bookstore events, even though you weren't asking yet. But you get to, that's where you get all that information about, what the feeling was.
I was getting that vibe.
So yeah. And so it's research, even though you framed it more about intuition, it is research that helps you form your intuition. And your driving piece of information is absolutely the vibe and the intuition. But another author doing the same approach might take the same exercise but take a sheet of paper and make notes. Okay, there's no seating area for an event. The staff are rude to authors. They shut me down when it's an interesting approach. Okay, so what did you do next when you had your short list of the stores you wanted to get into?
Yeah, so I think for me it was a sensing, and it was, I want the way that I wrote my books and the channeling that I heard for all of the words, I want where they are to kind of be on that vibe, because I feel like that's the destiny and where it's supposed to be. So after I would gather the information, I'd write the names down. I had a little book. I'd spend a weekend in the city, go through all of them, explore, and then I'd come home and see which one stuck out the most. Sit down, sit with it, look at the little bookmarks, the information, and then I would start to send emails to the ones that my intuition was like, yeah, that's the cutest store. I want to be in there. So then I would send emails to the lady's name and say, hey, I was in your store this weekend. It's so cute. I love the vibe. I met Rachel, who was reading a book at your register, and I just thought it was fantastic. I teach yoga. I have a lot of workshops that I love to do. Is there a way that we can plan something in your store? Is there a way we can do an author signing? Yeah.
So I have to come back to this because this is really brilliant on so many levels, I think. But you've been talking about the city and your favorite city. Why don't we've got to talk about what city this is.
Okay, New York City's my favorite city.
Okay, so you're a Canadian author. You live outside Toronto, and you went to New York City to set up your book signings. Okay, that's what kind of a go-getter person you are.
Toronto is second.
And you've done some in Toronto.
There's cute
You've done some
bookstores
in Toronto,
in Toronto. Yes, they are super cute.
Yeah, there
with
are.
old typewriters and old books. Yes. Yeah.
Yes. So back to the second thing, which is sending the emails and reaching out to. Now you're making the ask. And how you described to me what you put in that email, you were letting the person know that you've done your homework, you've been in the store. This is not a nameless, faceless reach out to dozens of bookstores, casting a fishing line, hoping somebody's going to bite. You've demonstrated that you've taken the effort, you know the staff's name. So what kind of response did you get?
Most of the time they were interested, and it's been successful in that they want to plan an event thing. And the opposite side of it is that it's just another author and there's so many. So
did anybody say that to you?
Yeah, some people. Yeah, yep.
Oh,
yeah. Kind of flat out and said, "Oh yeah, we have many authors looking to host events. We're not doing anything right now. We have a list. Thanks. Bye." Yeah, and but that's part of it.
Okay.
That's why I don't go to just one bookstore, right? I go to many and I feel them all out. Yeah, because they're not all going to work out.
Right.
That's nature.
Yeah.
And the ones that are interested, the ones that are interested in what I have to offer and the events that I can create with them, it's really been a beautiful experience.
And so when somebody indicates the first level of interest, what kinds of things have they asked you about? What was a typical comeback response from them when they were interested?
That's a good question.
Did they need more information from you?
So in the email, I always included, I left it open-ended like this. I said, can I send you, if you have interest, may I send you my sell sheets just so you can take a peek, please? That was the start. And so the email coming back would be, sure. And on the bottom of my emails, also my books, my links, my following, so they can kind of see who I am. It says author, yoga studio owner, etc. So they could tell it wasn't like a shot in the dark and it's a real person with real books. So that would get them to respond back, yes, you can or not. And I said, great. So in the second email, I would always say, these are some of the workshops that I offer that work really well or could in your space. And that is kind of nice. I found if they are an event creator, they don't want to be creating the event themselves. They're doing that all the time. So with me having the yoga, meditation, Reiki, and the books, I give them what I can do there. And it makes it very easy for them to plan the event.
And it also allows them to right away see if they think you and your topics are a fit for their customer base.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Or something new in the space, like yoga in a bookstore.
Right. So you're giving them the opportunity to see your sell sheet, but I want to come back to what you have suggested to them in terms of those events, which I think is interesting. You did not say, I want to do a book signing. You gave them something else to think about.
Yeah, that's a good point. I would say an author event. Would you like to do an author event? I could do a book signing for you, or these are my talents and I can offer this. I can teach yoga for you. We could do a meditation class, Reiki and read, things like that to tie the two together. So because this is a customer thing, this is to offer the people that are reading something new, something different, something peaceful along with reading books, something new, fresh.
Yeah, that would be I'm starting to see why you've done 10 at the time of this recording. I have no doubt that in the next month I'm going to hear, oh yeah, no, Andrea's in another 75 bookstores, which is fantastic. But so you're giving them value add, you're helping them see beyond, oh my goodness, another author who just wants to come in and schlep their books and, same old table, and which is all, it's nothing wrong with the same old table. And we,
No.
authors want to get in bookstores and it can be important, but you're giving them something else. So you give them the option on the second email to take a look at your sell sheet, and you give them here are the types of events. So tell us now what the third exchange has been like. And I know they're all going to be a little bit different, but where does it tend to go from there?
It tends to go to yes. Yes. Yes.
If they respond asking for the sell sheet, it tends to go to yes.
It tends to go to yes. Yes. Yeah. From there it goes to yes. And then we start to pick dates and set times. And then it turns into who's going to make a flyer, or can you, or does the bookstore have people that do social media? That kind of marketing kind of thing is the next step. What's it going to say? 6 to 8 p.m. What's your peak time? Bookstores will always have hours they do their events. So what do those look like? When are you free on those hours? That kind of thing. So the marketing coming together with the information to present to the readers, to the customers.
Yeah. How many of the 10 have been straight book signings, and how many have involved you doing some other type of presentation or event?
I'd say probably 50-50 right now. Yeah, probably 50-50, which is just dreamy. I mean, an author signing at the table all set up with your name and your books there when you walk in is just something incredible, out of this world.
Yeah. So the marketing pieces and who's going to create the collateral and who's going to do what. Has anybody asked you how you are going to bring people in?
No.
So there's been no the events, the bookstore signings or events that you've done so far. The store has accepted responsibility for putting the bums in seats, really.
What I hear is this. What I've heard is this. We checked you out. We know you're following Andrea. We kind of know what you can do. Yeah, I've heard that. Another.
So you've heard that they check you out on social media.
Yeah.
Okay. Or do they know that you're following them on social media? Which I'm just want to make sure I understand.
I think they check. If I had to guess without answering for them, I think they would check the reputation and kind of see the credibility. Am I self-published? Are these books what they're looking for? For example, when I drove to Barnes & Noble in New York City to get into that bookstore that I think is the most beautiful bookstore, they wanted to see and hold the books. Like, what are we talking about? Do you have them here?
Right.
So I had to present them, and they had to, it was in the hands of the manager who held millions of books, and that was a surreal moment. But they want to see, it's not just like whimsical. They have a method, and
yes,
they know what they want in the store. And so that's why I find it very important to listen to my intuition, like that kind of destiny, that strong voice, to feel the vibe. And then that's the seeds that I'm going to water, those seeds.
Yeah.
Because then I think it's a win-win on both sides.
Yeah. So we've touched on social media and marketing now. So what did you do and have you done leading up to each event on your social media? Do you talk about it? What's your approach?
Mhm. So right away, as soon as I have the date and the information, it's on social media. It's on the social. So LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook for sure, right away. Then I go into Eventbrite. That actually is a ticketed place that all people from all cities can look up and just kind of say, hey, what's in Beamsville this weekend? What's in Toronto? What's in anywhere in the world? All of the events are listed. So I have Andrea L. Wehlann on Eventbrite. So you can kind of see all year long where I'm going to be on there. I'll pop it on there right away. That's a whole new crowd that's not on social media, perhaps. So I'll do that as well. Then
and I didn't. I'm going to cut just a second.
Mm.
I don't go away.
No.
So Eventbrite. This is something I didn't know before. I thought
Mm.
Eventbrite was something that you used when you wanted to invite people to your event and when, for example, if you're charging tickets, but you're using it as a notification platform?
I'm using it for, bites. Yeah, because
Cool.
if I'm in a
Okay.
bookstore, say I'm in a bookstore in Toronto on Queen Street, just for example, there's a really cute one there.
Yes.
And those people are interested in what I do or they want to see me again. I'll say, you can go on Eventbrite. Everything's up there for the whole year where I'm going to be. If I'm on the beach teaching yoga in St. Catharines, I'll say the same thing. They're like, where can we find you? Where can we do this again? Actually, if you go on Eventbrite, you can see up until December of 2023, and there's some for next year there. So I list them all. Some bookstores don't have tickets, so I'll put it on Eventbrite without a ticket. So for Queen Books in Toronto, for restorative yoga in the bookstore, we didn't charge a fee, but there were 4 people from Eventbrite that purchased, that said they were coming through email, through the platform.
Which allows you a whole bunch of things. If you do have limited space, you can
put that.
You can know who's RSVP'd. Yeah. Okay. I interrupted you. Once you put it up on Eventbrite, this was the question about what do you do between the event getting confirmed and the event, how you're promoting it. You were going somewhere else. You've talked about LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram, and Eventbrite. What's next?
So next, I might send out an email if I can maneuver MailChimp and things like that, or pay someone $25 to do the email list of the event. But I'll share it continually up until the event. If there's one event I have coming up that's first, then I'll have that scheduled post nonstop. Sometimes I'll do every hour, 1:01 p.m., 2:22 p.m., 3:33 p.m., all the way until it starts, and then I hit the next one. I don't know exactly what I'm doing, but this is my process so far.
Sounds like you're doing pretty darn good. So what's it like? Tell us what you've mentioned a restorative yoga session at Queen Books in Toronto. So it wouldn't have occurred to me, for example, before I met you, that a bookstore would be interested in having somebody come in and teach yoga who happens to also be an author and might be able to bring some books. So what was that like?
Yeah, you know what? I think I Googled it. I'm like, there's got to be something in the bookstore in yoga. I'm like, and I Googled something, bookstore, like /yoga or something. And then I was reading, and it was like the whole power of the written word is all lined on the shelf surrounding you. Like, and I was like, oh, that. So I made my own, like of that. I used that wording that resonated with me. I put that in the emails. I put that in the posts, and I'm like, there is the power of the written word. When I was in that store with my crystal singing bowls and Peaceful, like Ruth Ozeki's book that I love, Tale of the Time, like that was behind me. There were so many authors that I loved. There is something about being surrounded by the books in the bookstore. I want to do that a lot. More.
Clearly you are doing it a lot. 10 and counting. That's great. So there was a story that you've told me, and I don't know if I'm going to be able to prompt the right question because I don't remember enough of the details, but I thought it was so interesting. There was somebody you told me about trying to get in a bookstore, and a gentleman asked you something about he had seen a social media post. Do you know the story I'm talking about?
Yes.
You do?
Yes.
Okay, could you tell that story?
Is it the story that you liked, or an aspect of it, or just tell that story?
Well, I think the aspect of it is that people are checking and they're interested in what you are sharing about potential
I don't
events.
want to call anybody out, but when I feel something, then I go after it. I feel like going to these bookstores. No, the only way for me to get into that beautiful bookstore in New Jersey was for me to go there and bring my books to get into that beautiful bookstore in New Jersey. So when I'm at home, that's what I'm dreaming about, New Jersey. So every post that I was posting before getting there was, hey, New Jersey Devils. Hey, New York Rangers. Hey, everything New Jersey, everything New York City, everything I love. That's what I was posting about. And so once I was in the bookstore and I'm standing behind the table, the event manager just said, oh, by the way, I saw you posting about the New Jersey Devils. And I'm like, yes, I did. And he's like, wow, that would be great if they were in the store. And I said, well, don't tell me that, because that's going to be that's going on my vision board and Oprah's book club. Yep, it's all going on there. So it does go to show that people are looking. And it does go to show that you can have whatever you work for and whatever you dream for. Just keep at it, That was a nice little breakthrough moment to be noticed when I'm just a little girl at home dreaming of these things. He picked up on it, and it happened, and we had that face-to-face moment that'll last forever.
Yeah. So the other thing that you did in that story demonstrates it is that you're thinking outside the box. It wasn't hashtag bookstore, although not that you may have used hashtag bookstore, but you were bringing your whole kind of, not even just thought process, but your hopes and dreams and thinking about other ways to connect. It was very authentically you, and thinking outside the box, capturing conversations and audiences that were not necessarily typical. I wonder how many other authors that they've ever seen in their bookstore for a signing were hashtagging the New Jersey Devils. Probably no one, until they hear this podcast, of course.
I hope they're all there. I hope to be back there in September, and I hope, what he said to me? I was dreaming that the mascot would come in. I said, it's going on my vision board. Yes, it is. As soon as I leave here, I'm putting the New Jersey Devils mascot, and I hope they're in this beautiful bookstore. It is a beautiful bookstore in Woodland Park, Barnes & Noble, New Jersey.
Awesome. Okay, quickly, we're wrapping up. It's been a fantastic 30-minute conversation. Where are you going next?
Next, I think local. I think close to home. Indigo had some issues of not being able to accept books when they had a little crash, something technical. So I'm hoping to be all close to home. St. Catharines, Chapters for Vermont, I think I'll be in September. Brock University is having an alumni marketplace in September. So I put in for a table there because I am Brock University alumni. And things that are close to home, and then hopefully New Jersey again in September.
Awesome. That's fantastic. So if people want to reach you and learn more about you, I'm just going to do a plug for where they can find out about you and your books. ingeniumbooks.com/Andrea Wehlann, Wehlann. And you can find out a little bit more about all three of Andrea's books there. And I really want to thank you, Andrea, for coming and sharing your I'm sorry. I'm afraid it's a brilliant process. It's a brilliant process. It's really providing what I think is going to be some hope and ideas for other authors who might be looking for new ways to get themselves into bookstores. So thank you very much, and good luck with your next events.
That's the idea, Bonnie. Thank you for everything you've done for me. Thank you.
Bye.
Namaste.
Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this episode of the Ingenium Books podcast, please like, share, and subscribe. Subscribe wherever you get your podcasts, but also consider subscribing to our YouTube channel, where you can see these episodes in addition to hearing them.